Hi, welcome back. And people will be filtering in. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. This is the 140 conference where anything and everything just happens, and the people you're going to meet next to you, and it's just incredible the depth and breadth of what we cover. This next bit of time we're going to be focusing on education. And in fact, about a year or so ago, a year into the 140 conferences, I focused a lot on education. We've had as many as 6 different education panels at the conferences because I believe that the way the world is evolving and the way that kids get a voice and then all these controversies with schools, do we block Facebook, do we block Twitter? But then kids have mobile phones and we have all this ability that they can bypass the system if they want to anyway. And the whole idea of being educated and understanding how education evolves or doesn't and the controversies, and I've been part of some of that, and so I always get excited when we have educators on stage because it's, these are the people that are affecting the future, and each and every one of them, their voice gets amplified many times, and they, whether they realize it or not, they have great influence on people, and it's only years later. It's sort of sad, my father once told me, he's passed away now for 12 years, but that your parents seem smarter as you get older. And I believe that, and so do your teachers, and so does everyone, but when you're a kid, sometimes you have to experience things in order to appreciate the greatness of what's around you, and sometimes you realize it when it's too late. But it's just amazing stuff. So here today we have a bunch of stuff focused on education. After this panel is a friend of mine, flew in from Tel Aviv. He's 15 years old, and he's going to be talking about growing up in real time. And we just have some really incredible teachers here this next couple of days. I might mention on August 2nd and 3rd, here back at the Y, I'm doing 2 days called 140 EDU. It's going to happen, although the website might not reflect it. I've been a little busy with this conference. But we have some educators, some parents and kids and others who are vested in the future of education all coming. Chris Lehman's doing it with me. Chris Lehman's over from Science Leadership Academy, an amazing principal who, if he didn't have to work today, he would have been here today or tomorrow, but it's this end-of-year stuff. And so he chose August 2nd and 3rd because he thought that was a good time for teachers to come out and do stuff. So you're all invited back for that. But anyway, I'd like to hand the stage over, and please focus, and let's give a warm afternoon welcome to our first panel, please. And take it away.
All right, thank you. My name is Kim Sivick, and I'm here to talk about creating authentic learning experiences for kids using online global connections. I teach K to 5, so the little kids, and yes, we do collaborate globally. I have 9-year-olds this year in 4th grade, and they had responses on their blog from individuals in 27 different countries. So it is authentic, they have a voice, and it's being heard, which is really exciting. I'm going to introduce the rest of the panel. They're going to share a little bit about their projects. We have 2 educators and we have 1 non-educator, and we'll get to him in a little bit, and he can tell what his role is here. So first I have on the end Hadley Ferguson, middle school teacher. You can introduce me. You want Go ahead, tell a little bit about your project.
I got interested in Twitter because good teachers have always been passionate about kids, but we've only been able to connect at conferences or reading other people's books. And Twitter suddenly is connecting thousands of teachers around the world so that they can share their best practices, they can ask questions of each other and get responses. And an idea can start with an astronaut on the space station or a scientist in Antarctica or a classroom in Brazil, and within seconds it's traveling around the world and it can show up in my classroom the next day. And it's just very exciting to be able to give the best that's out there to my students. And just a quick story, I was teaching a unit on feudal Japan, and I've taught it for years. And I tweeted out, anybody have any resources? And I heard back within just a couple of minutes from Barbara Sakamoto, who is in Japan, and she had all kinds of websites and resources for me to use, and I was overwhelmed. I was fairly new to Twitter, and I'd never experienced that kind of connection. Well, about a week later, a big box arrived at school, and inside of it was Japanese treats for my students. She had packed up 5 or 6 different varieties so that my students could experience what Japanese students would be eating. And then she DM'd me and said, would I be interested in connecting with a English woman who had married into a Buddhist priest's family and become a Buddhist priest herself. And I said yes, that I would love to be able to do that. And the long and the short of it was that we set up a Skype call between Victoria and my class. And Victoria took herself away from a dinner party, dressed in her Buddhist robes, got her holy texts, and sat and Skyped with my class. And I had told my students that it would only be 10 or 15 minutes, that she was busy in her dinner party. And because of the wonders of Skype, they were raising their hands and she was calling on them. And after the 20 minutes, I said, it's really time to let you go. And she said, no, 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 there are lots more questions. Let me keep talking. And we talked, she ended up talking to them for over an hour. But her passion for her life, Barbara's for sharing, all came through and just expanded the experience of learning for my students.
Thanks. Patrick?
My name is Patrick Higgins. I'm currently the Supervisor of Humanities for Verona Public Schools in Verona, New Jersey, which is about 20 minutes away from the city. And I have to say, this is the first time I've ever presented from a couch. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm here to talk about my role and some of the things I've done the last couple of years with social networking and with social media and students. First off, I just want to say it's an honor to be here and to witness and hear a lot of the speakers today. There's so many things that we've heard all throughout the day that really, I immediately started saying, I made a list of all the things I had to mention today that I heard that really tie into what we do. First and foremost, when I look at, a lot of the work I do is with curriculum as well, and I work with teachers and students. And I have to say hello to the journalism students that are watching this in Verona right now. They're all watching the stream. But a lot of the things I do, I approach with three things in mind. First, the work that I want students to create and the curriculum that I want to write that students go through, it has to be something that leaves a legacy, something that they can revisit after they've gone. So I don't want them just going through the paces of writing the research paper that exists and sits on their shelf and I never look at it again. I want something that has legacy, something they can come back in 5 years and say, hey, look, there's that project I worked on and it's still going on. It also has to have some kind of global bend to it. It has to do something that reaches outside of their own lives and into the community at large. And the last thing, it has to be personally relevant to them. One of the things we talk about with authentic education is, it can't be just schooly. It can't be something that I'm doing this for it'll be good for you later. Well, I don't know if that works so much anymore because of the fact that there are all sorts of environments you can immerse yourself in. There's all sorts of people you can learn from. Just about every major organization that is educational in the United States has a Twitter account. If you want NASA has a Twitter account. You connect with astronauts. There's so many different ways to put our students in kind of an apprenticeship model. If you want to learn to be an astronaut, you should talk like astronauts talk, and you should talk to astronauts. And you can do that now with the help of a motivated and inspired teacher. The project that I came here to speak about is something we did a couple years ago with Kiva. I know a lot of you are familiar with Kiva and micro lending. We hooked our students up with a team. We created a team in Kiva, 7th grade students, and it was originally, the name of the unit was Cash Climbers. They were learning all about finance and how to invest and save, and that was essentially their culminating project, was to figure out who to lend their money to through Kiva. So they did the standard research on all the countries and all the different, the UN millennial goals for each of those countries, and they eventually picked where the money they were going to lend to went. And when they finished lending, that group of 7th graders moved on. The next year's class came through. It came time to do that unit again, where they were going to loan that money that they lent out the year before. And the previous year's kids all came back to just help that group decide. And then that group went on. And then the third year we did it, all 3 years came back because it was all their money. And they had a vested interest in this. And what's amazing is we've loaned to 62 different entrepreneurs throughout the world since this project's been going on. And the kids can see the percentage that these people are paying back. Most of them are 100% paid back already, which blows their minds. And they all still talk quite a bit about it. So.
That's great. And JP Toto is our non-educator on our panel, and I think it's really appropriate that he's up here with educators. And I'm going to let him tell a little bit of the story about how he got connected with us and how he supports us.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is JP Toto. I'm VP of Application Development at Cognis IT in Philadelphia, but I'm also the co-founder of Barcamp Philly. We started in 2008, and in 2009, we, for whatever reason, had a large contingent of educators come, and Kim included, and she met a whole bunch of other educators, and it was a very serendipitous event because since then, EdCamp Philadelphia was born, and they just had their second, I believe.
Yeah, very successful.
They're very successful. And like Kim had mentioned, I see my role as very much a support role. I'm a product of our education system, and I don't think I'm a good educator. I'm not a good writer. I'm not a good designer, but I'm good at facilitating, bringing people together and working on Barcamp every year. So the upshot of what I would like to get across is that you can support our education, you can support our teachers by doing what you love. Do what you love to support the people that are doing important things, basically, is what I'm saying.
That's great. I'm going to share a project that I did with, it's ongoing, but I worked with a school in Uganda. I had the opportunity to travel there last summer, completely outside my comfort zone. I certainly probably don't look like Melissa and AJ that were up here earlier talking about Kenya and the energy they had. But I want to tell you a little bit about that story and how I used it to teach my elementary level students. So could I have the first slide? Okay, this is the school. This is Bududa Vocational Institute in rural Uganda, where there's unbelievable poverty, at least I'd never seen anything like it, a high incidence of AIDS. Most of the children, well, I'm going to say probably 40% of the children are orphans, and it's just a really difficult lifestyle. They have no running water. You can see a few solar panels on the top of the school. Through donations, they've got some of those solar panels. I was there for a couple weeks. This is the school truck. No such thing as a school bus, no seat belts. They arrive in the school truck if you live further than 3 kilometers. If you're closer than that, you get to walk through the hills and the woods. And they're standing. They don't sit on the truck, they stand and they pack them in as close as they can to get to school, and the kids run down the hills and into the street to get on the school truck, and they're just so thrilled for the opportunity to come to school. Because if you go to school, you are guaranteed a meal. It's probably the only meal you'll have that day, and it's kind of like a watery oatmeal that they call poshu, and so they're thrilled to be there. These are pre-K nursery students, and this is the way they spend their day for the most part when they're not out at recess. And they sit on, that's a dirt floor in the classroom, and there's about 90 students per teacher. That's just me hanging out with some of the kids. And this is the guy I want to talk about. His name is Richard Mwendi, and he is a Ugandan teacher. When I first showed up at the school, and I'm a coordinator of technology, this guy is a computer teacher there, believe it or not. They use the solar panels to charge a couple of computers, and he tries to teach some computer skills to the kids. Well, in Uganda, it's pretty chauvinistic, and he kind of looked at me and just kind of dismissed me. But a week went by, and he saw me doing some of the work, and I said to him, "Here, would you like to try my computer?" And his eyes just lit up, and he sat down and did all kinds of stuff. And he was really excited. So we had a great conversation about how the director of the school wants anyone that visits to sponsor a child, sponsor an orphan, give money, and make sure that they can attend school and pay their school fees. But giving is very personal, and I wanted to do something a little different, and I wanted to sponsor a teacher. So I talked to him about that, and again, his eyes lit up. And so what happened from that relationship is that Richard and I email, we Skype, we instant message a couple times a week. Sometimes he texts me on the phone, and we've built up this relationship. He Skyped with my students for like 45 minutes one day, telling them different things. Now, this is a guy that has to charge his computer intermittently. He'll say to me, "Well, if we need to Skype, we're going to have to do it at such and such a time," because he'll have to travel sometimes an hour to get decent bandwidth. And it's just been an amazing experience. My kids raised money to bring him here. We raised $2,000 to buy him a plane ticket. and his visa was turned down twice. He called me in tears, saying he was denied again. So what we're doing instead is I'm going to use that money to send him a really good computer, and this Saturday he's traveling 5 hours to the closest big city, and I'm buying him a solar panel. And so this is a computer that I sent him, and you can see him with the kids around him. Let me take that one back a minute. This is him showing some other teachers, so again, taking the learning that he's had and sharing that with other teachers. And it turned into a professional development event, which is awesome, and that's what a professional development event looks like in a school in Uganda. And this is the house that Richard lives in, and this weekend that house will have a solar panel on it, the first one in the entire village. So I'm really, really excited about that. So I'm just going to click that off now. That's the last slide. Thanks. And we just have a couple of questions now. So Hadley, why does right here, right now matter?
I think that right here, right now matters because our students are inundated with information from all sorts of sources, and we need to train them to evaluate that information and to learn where to go for sources. I think that they are much more they have experiences with things like current events that we never used to have. You had to wait for the newspaper or the magazine, and now in my class I put up a Twitter feed that had Egypt and Libya on it, and they could follow and see what was going on over there in a way that they're accustomed to, and we need to train them how to use it effectively.
Well, we could go on for quite a long time, but we're running out of time. So I want to just say that the best way to provide authentic learning experiences for today's students is to knock down walls. Connect locally, connect nationally, and connect globally. And it is the obligation of every concerned citizen. So if you consider yourself a concerned citizen, it is your obligation to participate in the education of our youth. So don't just slide outside your comfort zone. Take a giant leap, find your passion, and share it with our kids. So with that, thank you very much. I'm at Sivick with Hadley JF, PJ Higgins, and JP Toto. Follow a teacher today. Thanks.
Thank you.